Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. Welcome to today's episode of Leaders of the West. Okay, this is a different type of episode than what we typically record. We are usually getting to know a specific person, their business, some element about them, which makes them unique, which is why we want to talk about them. But today, we're actually here to talk about a very specific issue that business owners, specifically those of you with LLCs and corporations, need to know about, and that is the Beneficial Ownership Information Report, which is required under the Federal Corporate Transparency Act. So if you own an LLC or if you own a corporation and you don't know what this is or why we're talking about it, please stick around, because otherwise you actually could be fined $10,000 by the federal government, and you only have about a month or two left before the December 31st, 2024 deadline. So this is a form that needs to be filed by December 31st, 2024. It is something that I, as a business owner, have struggled to find really great information about. It can be difficult to find the website in order to file. I've also received paper filings in the mail, which are actually scams around this. So today we are bringing on Lisa Whitman, who Lisa is a former Miss Rodeo USA. She grew up on a ranch, and she is an attorney with over 25 years of experience. She practices in Oklahoma and Texas. And then in 2020, Lisa also created Morgan Wyatt, which is a company that helps businesses with business services. So when you put all of that together, that is why Lisa is a perfect guest to talk about this new reporting requirement and how to do it. Through Morgan Wyatt, they can also help you do it if it's something that you don't necessarily feel like you have the bandwidth for or the time for. But we're going to kind of get into the nitty-gritty about this. Again, how to file it, who's going to file it, what to look for in a scam. There's a lot of information here, so we might as well just get right to the episode. This was an absolutely wonderful conversation to have. But again, you guys, if you own an LLC, if you own a corporation, and you have not yet filed this, if you've never heard about this, it is imperative that you listen up, that you pay attention, that you share this episode with your friends, because chances are, if you haven't heard of it, neither have they. Nobody wants to be fined by the federal government. So without further wait, here we go. Lisa Whitman, you're going to love this. Lisa, I'm excited to have you here. Can you tell people a little bit more about yourself, what you do? You have cowgirl roots. I want you to share those too.
Yes, sure. I'm Lisa Whitman. I actually live in Oklahoma, but I grew up on a cattle ranch and kind of a cattle ranch farm combined. We farmed for half the county, it seems like, and raised cattle and horses and pigs and chickens and all the things whenever I was growing up. And then we carried that over into my adult life. And I'm actually married to a guy who was a former PBR qualifier for the finals multiple times, Spud Whitman. So Spud and I both have cowgirl and cowboy roots and the Western lifestyle, and we still do a lot of those things. Spud's business is actually ag-related. And yeah, so that's kind of it. I kind of grew up that way and still have that same love today.
And what is it that you do now? Because you have a very interesting career.
It gets a little busy. I have kind of a combination career. I am an attorney and I practice law in Oklahoma and Texas. And then I also have a separate company called Morgan Wyatt, and we mainly do business services or kind of team building, goal reaching, legacy planning, anything that has to do with your business and making it grow and making it last and be successful. We kind of help on all angles of that. And then I also help my husband a little bit with his office side, the nerdy side of the cattle industry. I help him with that part of his.
So you are the analytical brain is what you're telling us.
Yeah, I think so. I'm the nerd of the family.
Oh, I can totally relate to that. I am a nerd. In fact, yesterday I got a compliment on a spreadsheet that I created. Somebody was like, wow, I've never seen a spreadsheet like that before. And I was like, that is when you know that you have the analytical mind. Everybody is creative in some way, right? Like I'm creative when it comes to business, but I am not creative when it comes to anything art related. So like coloring, I've never been able to do that well. Like any kind of like artistic thing, design, that is not my jam. Spreadsheets totally are.
I love spreadsheets because I'm not math minded at all. You know, growing up on a ranch, we doctored our own cattle, and I knew how to do that from being a little girl. And I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian when I went through college. And then I realized there's a whole lot of science and a whole lot of math. And I'm really good with words, but I'm not good with numbers. And so I actually love spreadsheets. It does it for me.
We definitely have that in common. Okay, so you do have a really unique career, and you did kind of touch on it. You are an attorney, but then you also have this other business that helps people with various business services. How did you kind of put those two worlds together and really carve out this unique niche for yourself, which is, again, why we're here, because this beneficial ownership information report is one of those things that you, as an attorney and somebody who has a business that helps people with business services, helps one another fill out. So how did you create this very unique opportunity for yourself?
I used to do a lot of trial work, a lot of family law, a lot of ag legal work. And then about 14 years ago, I was able to go to work as a corporate attorney and doing mostly the corporate, nerdy, regulatory kind of work for a family. And eventually that evolved into me being on the board of directors for some companies. And then we shared ownership of some companies. And so then that forced me to start looking at the black and white of how those companies work and what they have to do. And so I'm part of a group that is on this listserv for new laws. And about a year and a half or so ago, the Corporate Transparency Act showed up in my email. And so I started studying it. And so that's what led me down that path to figure out what it is, how it applies to businesses. Because if you're like me, we spend so much time doing the fun stuff of our business and the actual work of letting our business do its thing, that it, whether it's selling cakes or, farming land, we're doing that thing and we're not looking at that black and white stuff behind it. And so it kind of gave me the opportunity to look at that and realize that had I not looked at that, Jesse, I'm not sure I would even know that this Corporate Transparency Act existed, but for my work on that nerdy side of the law, the background work behind companies.
No, I completely agree with you. It is something that I've seen only because I've been a part of some other communities of business owners, and so they have talked about it. But if I didn't have access to those communities, it's not anything that I would know about. And also, as I had mentioned to you earlier, and we're going to kind of get into this, like there's a very fine line between what an attorney does and then what an accountant does. And this is one of those things that is kind of like this gray area. So our accountant, who I would assume would have told me about it, hadn't told me about it because it doesn't really fall into their realm, unlike all other tax things and government required material. So can you tell us what exactly is the beneficial ownership information report? And why are we talking about this now? Because again, like you and I both just said, I know we have a lot of people listening to this who are thinking to themselves, well, gosh, I've owned an LLC for years and I've never had to do this before. So is this like a scam? What is this? It is not a scam. It is very real. And you have to file it by the end of the year.
The Corporate Transparency Act was actually enacted in 2021, but it did not go into effect until January 1st of 2024. And they didn't give anybody a lot of heads up notice about it. It just kind of landed in laps. You mentioned that there were lawyers and CPAs and who files this thing. I have actually filed these reports for other lawyers in other states because I'm part of another group of lawyers, another different community that does estate planning. And those lawyers don't really do these. And so they said, Lisa, we see that you're doing these. Can you do ours for us? And the same with some CPA firms. I'm actually handling a lot of these for CPA firms, for other law firms, because there are some things about it that can be tricky. So it's not a scam, but there are some lawsuits over it, whether it's constitutional or not. But Jesse, I don't think those lawsuits will be resolved before the end of the year. So I think they're going to be irrelevant, which is going to mean, December 31st, everybody's going to panic and say, I don't have this done. So that's why we haven't heard about it in years past, because it hasn't been in existence. But you mentioned a scam. There are some companies that are mailing out mailers to companies to say, hey, we'll do this for you. Like that one you're holding up and showing me.
Yeah, nobody else can see this, but I'm holding up one of these right now because in the last 2 weeks, I have gotten one of these for every LLC that we own. So we're going to get to this too.
Okay. Yeah. So there are a lot of companies, and they could be valid companies, but there are a lot of companies wanting to charge you $400 or $500 to do one of these filings. And you're having to turn over your tax ID number. You're turning over your driver's license or your passport. And that's one reason why with Morgan Wyatt, we've really tried to put, although my face may not be the best marketing tool we could have, but we're trying to put a human in front of people to say, this is who I am. I really am a real person. I live in rural Oklahoma. This is my business. I'm not trying to just scam you. I'm trying to help you comply with this new law they have out there.
Okay. So first things first, I have a couple questions here, obviously. The first one is this something that is done online or done electronically, or is it filed via the mail?
You have to file it online. There's 2 different ways you can file it. You can actually go to their website and file it online electronically. But if you do the direct filing like that, there's no way that I know of that you can just save it and then go back to it if you're missing a piece of information, and you have to start all over again. The other way is to use their PDF format that they let you download a PDF and fill that out and then electronically click a button that's embedded within that document and file it that way. The hard part about that, and it took us forever to actually be able to download that PDF, because it would pop up this error message that says, hey, you have to have the latest and greatest Adobe Reader to be able to download this document. And I'm like, we have the latest and greatest one and we still can't get to it. So it's a little tricky how to get to it. We have a link in a program that we do that we provide that PDF to you. There's a way to get to it on the website, but it's a little tricky to get to it. But it's all online.
Again, the reason that I ask this is because if you are listening to this and you have received this thing in the mail, and I'm going to read mine to you as I look at it. It says Form 5102, Mandatory Beneficial Ownership Reporting. It says that I need to respond by 9/25, which is obviously not the deadline. We know that it's December 31st. It says that I have a filing fee of $119. This is not coming from the U.S. federal government. This is a company who has sent this to me, who wants me to pay them $119 so that they are going to fill this information out. So if you have gotten this in the mail, Uncle Sam is not going to send you to jail because you didn't fill out your paper form, because this is not the thing. You need to fill this out online and submit it electronically.
Jesse, that's exactly right. There is no federal Form 5102. The company that mailed that to you, that's their own internal form number as far as I can tell, because there's not a form number for this. It is an actual form from the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network under the U.S. Department of the Treasury. They don't have a form number. It's just their form. And you mentioned the $119. That is not the filing fee. There is no filing fee whatsoever. If you can figure out how to do it on your own, it's free. It's a free filing. What you're paying, the $119 that they're wanting you to pay, is for their service for filing it. So like if I filed yours for you, we charge a fee for looking at your company information, figuring out what goes in the form, whose information has to go there, and we charge you for that service. But if you can figure out how to do it on your own, it is completely free.
Okay, which I knew this, but I think that is valuable information because, again, how many people have received a mailer just like this with an envelope that's going to take this back to Washington, D.C., just like the one I have here? That's not the thing that you want to be filling out. You guys want to go either, try to do it yourself online, have Lisa's company help you do it, which at the end of this, I'm sure that we're going to tell you guys if this is just not something that is on your radar or in your abilities, you can obviously work with Lisa. Again, that's why we bring you trusted people who can help you on issues like this. And ironically enough, we kind of talked about this earlier, but I had asked our accountant about this, like I said, and he said that this isn't something that their office is doing because it's technically a legal filing, not a tax filing. And that doesn't necessarily fall under their scope of work. Is that, again, kind of what you have found in your work with this, Lisa?
It is. I have several different CPAs. There's some in Texas, Kansas, and here in Oklahoma that have hired me to file the forms for their clients. Because there are legal components to it and definitions to it, what they have told me is it doesn't fall under their insurance coverage. So they're not covered by their insurance if they do it wrong. But there is a tax component because some of the definitions that are involved tie back to the Internal Revenue Code. So I actually sometimes will reach out to someone's CPA and say, okay, they're not for sure how their ownership is divided up. What does your K-1 for this company look like? And they can give me that division from the CPA's office. But a lot of CPAs, and I think the smart ones, are saying, this isn't what we do. We're going to let you go somewhere else to do this.
Honestly, that makes perfect sense because, again, most successful companies, they do the thing that they do very, very well. That is what they specialize in, and they don't touch things that they're not very, very good at. And if this isn't the thing, they're going to go send you to somebody who it is their thing, which again is somebody like you, Lisa. So how often does somebody have to fill out a beneficial ownership information report? Is it an annual requirement, or is it something that they fill out once and you never have to do it again?
Something that you fill out once. It's not an annual filing like you would normally do with your LLC, or not like an annual franchise tax if you have a corporation. And I know you mentioned that this is for LLCs. It's also for corporations, but usually those people have people that are, doing their filings and things like that for them. But it's not an annual filing. But if the information that you've submitted changes, then you have to file an update. So if, say, for instance, someone gets married or divorced and their last name changes, that's going to require an update. If you sell part of your company or you bring in a new manager, then that's an update. Part of what they're wanting to know is who is behind the front of the company. The law was enacted to help. It's under the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which falls under the U.S. Department of the Treasury. So it was created to try to figure out who's behind the front of the businesses that are operating in the United States market, and for trafficking and money laundering, all of those kinds of, bad, evil things. So that's why it was created. And so the information that they're wanting isn't necessarily only the owners, but you're also required to give them, like, your managers, things like that. So if that manager changes, I know that's kind of a roundabout way to say that, but if your manager changes, then that would require an update needed to be filed.
Right. And that could honestly be anything. An address. If you move, let's say you get a different PO box or whatever information is in there, phone numbers, email addresses, any kind of thing changes, this then needs to be amended and refiled.
Right. And the deadline to do that, if you file your original report, you only have 30 days to file an updated report if your information changes. So it's something that people really need to put like a monthly reminder on their calendar. Like every month on the 1st, we're going to look to make sure that the information that we sent to them the first time hasn't changed. We don't have a new owner, because when we get busy doing the cool stuff of our business, which is what we love to do, we forget about the nerdy black and white stuff. So just set a reminder to remind yourself, I've got to update that if things change.
Okay, that is very, very helpful to know. Okay, finally, if somebody is completely overwhelmed by this and they feel as though they are not into this nerdy black and white stuff, they don't have the time, the bandwidth, or they just don't have the relationship with somebody else who maybe would be doing this with a business, whether that's an attorney or however that is, what can they do? How can they work with you? You mentioned that you're licensed as an attorney in Oklahoma and Texas. So does that mean the only people in Oklahoma and Texas can work with you, or can anybody work with you? Give us the rundown, Lisa.
Okay, so through my Morgan Wyatt business that we own, we can work with companies and people all across the country. I actually even called the Bar Association in Oklahoma and I said, I want to make sure I can do this for people other than Oklahoma or Texas. And as long as we do it through our company, we can. I think the benefit of having us help you work on it, even though we're not licensed to give you legal advice, I can tell you we've studied it up one side and down the other. There's, I think, a 50-something page compliance manual. There's about 50 pages of FAQs that you can look at. There's an instructional guide that's 20 or 30 pages. We've dove through the middle of it, so we understand it. And from a business standpoint, we can give you the business guidance and we can show you how to do it. As far as contacting us, I think our website will be tagged to this podcast, but we've got a website, which is morganwyatt.com. And on our website, there's a link where you can email us and say, hey, we just want you to do this for us. And we can send you the paperwork and the requirements that we need to fill your report out for you. Or we've just finished an instructional video, kind of like if you want to go online and take a course on something, we've actually provided a set of videos that walk you through it step by step. And we'll tell you exactly what each part means. Then we're going to walk you through how to file your report online and then what to do with it once you get that transcript back that says, hey, you've successfully filed this, and then what to do with that. And so that's another option that for people who don't really want to turn loose of their tax ID number and their driver's license or their passport and all of that. It's a way that you can go online and do it yourself with some very dedicated and specific instructions to walk you through exactly what you need to know without having to turn your information over to us or to anybody.
And you guys can also be found in the directory as well. We will have all of this information in the show notes for everybody, but it should be really easy to find. Any other things that maybe we didn't ask or other things that you want to mention on this form and filing?
I think the one thing, Jesse, is that not every company has to file one of these. Only the companies that are created by filing something with the Secretary of State's office. So if you filed your paperwork to create your LLC or your corporation, or if you have Native American history, you can maybe file this with your tribal government. So if you've created your company by filing something with your tribal government or your Secretary of State's office, those are the companies that fall under it. If you had something that was, let's say you did Jesse's saddle making, but you just did that as a sole proprietorship, that's not included. You don't fall underneath the Act. But if you're an actual organized LLC or corporation, then you do fall under the Act. And then there are some exemptions that can pull you back out of it, but it's pretty hard to fit into that category of exemptions.
Okay, perfect. Well, Lisa, that is absolutely wonderful. I will say, I can't let you go without just asking you some of our rapid fire round questions. We ask these to everybody on the show. So first things first, what is the best piece of business or personal advice that you've ever been given?
Oh, wow. I think I've been blessed to have lots of advice from lots of great people. And I think that that's how we, make the world go around by hearing from others. And I wouldn't have ever picked this one out other than someone that I really loved told me, Lisa, I'll never forget that you told me this. And it's something that someone else had told me years ago. And I thought, well, I just never would have really zeroed in on it, but probably that, I've always thought there's nothing I can't do, that I can figure it all out and I'm in control and all of that stuff. And I was having a really bad day, and a really awesome lady looked at me and she said, you know what? Even superheroes get their cape stuck in the fan sometimes. And I thought, okay, it's okay that I'm stuck in the fan for a little bit. I can pull my cape out and put it back on and take off again. But just don't get discouraged when things go wrong or you're hit with something hard, because that's going to happen and it's okay.
I can see why that was a very memorable piece of advice for somebody. I absolutely love that. And I've never heard that example before, but that is good. Okay, similar but different. If you could give people any words of wisdom and you knew that they would take them to heart, what would it be?
I think it would be that you're never alone. I know that's a piece of faith-based information or wisdom, but we don't ever go anywhere that God hasn't went before us, and that we don't have to do life alone. And surround yourself with people that are great. Surround yourself with people who will give you wisdom and good advice. And that's what makes the best leaders. I think when you have a good, solid group of people around you and you have a faith to lean on, then you're able to make those good decisions, those hard decisions, and you're not doing that by yourself.
Ooh, another good piece of advice. Okay, if you could go to dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick?
That has to be my mom. My mom passed away in 2019, and she was just the most incredible lady. My dad was rough and tough, and my mom was sweet and kind and took us to Sunday school and church, and all of that. Was always so wise and always thinking of other people first. And just one more minute with her would be amazing.
Oh, what is a quote that you lead your life by?
And this one I heard from a pastor. It helps because, like I said earlier, life's hard and it doesn't come easy. But he always said that your circumstances aren't your report card. So no matter what you're going through, those circumstances don't define you. It's how you handle those things and how you use that experience to grow on and to build on and to go forward and do better next time or to help somebody else in a better way next time. So whatever your circumstances are, those aren't your report card. Don't let it get you stuck.
Oh, you are full of good stuff today. Holy cow. Okay, last question. Do you have a favorite book, podcast, program? Maybe it's like a service you can't live without, something you think that more people should know about that you just want to share?
Okay, so I only discovered this one about a year ago, and it was life-changing for me. I juggle a lot of different hats, and we do a lot of different things. And there's this app called Trello. It's Trello, Trello. And it's amazing. And you can set it up to do different little to-do lists, or if I'm working on something, I can put notes. And when you call someone and the phone operator says, oh, well, let me check my notes on that. Well, that's what this lets you do. And you can see what everybody else in your office has done. I have one for personal, one for office, one for our other office, one for my husband. And then when you finish a task, you can drag it over into the done category and it gives you this little confetti celebration. And it's like a little happy spot. And I just love it.
Trello is awesome. I agree. I think anything like that is, again, just like this easy life hack that maybe nobody's ever heard of before, but you're going to change one person's life because they didn't know about it. And now it's their new best friend. I love that. That's exactly why we asked that question. Lisa, this was absolutely wonderful. I will obviously include this in the show notes as well. But if somebody does want to get a hold of you, obviously we mentioned that they can find you on Of the West's directory. What's your website? What's your email?
Okay, so our website is morganwyatt.com. It's MORGAN, and then Wyatt is just like Wyatt Earp, WYATT.com. And all the information is on there, how to contact us, or my email address is there. And like you said, it's in the directory. And so I'm pretty easy to find.
Awesome. Well, Lisa, thank you so much. You guys, I hope this was helpful for you. I'm sure there is somebody out there listening who didn't even know this was a thing, and now they are slightly panicked. Do not panic. You are going to get through this. You can do it by yourself. Lisa can help you. You're going to get this figured out. Just make sure you do it before the end of the year, because otherwise you could face a $10,000 fine by the federal government. Nobody wants that. Take the time to get this done. Lisa, thank you so much for today. You guys know that we will be back here next week. We so appreciate you. You guys are the absolute best listeners. You guys give us the best testimonials and reviews, and I really do truly appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much. The other thing that I have for you, though, is you probably know a business owner who is impacted by this. Please share this episode with them. This is something that absolutely more people need to know about. If you are somebody who didn't realize that this was a thing, chances are somebody else out there did not necessarily realize that this was a thing. And friends don't let friends get fined. So please do us a favor, share this with everybody. This is a very, very important thing, especially for those of us in rural America. Being a business owner is not easy. We're here today to make it a little bit easier for you guys. But with that, I hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you back here next week. Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go.